While advertising is one of the oldest, most visible and most important instruments of the marketing communications mix, you can imagine that huge amounts of research address the question of what makes advertising effective. Agency or creatives can use a large number of appeals, formats and execution strategies to express or translate their creative idea. Broadly speaking, two different types of creative appeals can be classified: rational appeals and emotional appeals. Rational appeals are advertisements which contain features that serve as evaluative criteria, and emotional response are advertisements whose main purpose is to elicit effective responses. Well, as I said before, emotional appeals are advertisements whose main purpose is to evoke effective responses and to communicate an image. Advertisements that touch people's emotions with their messages, either positive or negative, have greater success in getting people to remember that message. Many companies have succeeded with emotional campaigns because they are selling sentiment, warm feelings, love, belonging, nostalgia, and so on. So to put a long story short, emotions persuade. Let's start from the beginning. Print advertisements frequently make use of more than one image. Multiple images are either of the same valence, all positive or all negative, or of mixed valence, positive and negative. Therefore, readers of advertisements are being simultaneously exposed to multiple stimuli to form an effective response. Effect integration was defined as the process in which multiple images of differing valences are integrated by the reader of an advertisement. In other words, how the emotional responses generated by multiple images are integrated into an overall effective response. Well, according to Chaudhry and al., the associations of all the images presented in a print advertisement, which share the same valence, develops a peak mechanism which allows the reader to remember the association better because of the strength of the stimuli combined together. However, as all the effect-generating stimuli are presented together in a simultaneously presented format, there is no clear end stimuli. So the aim of the study was to provide a new theoretical account for effect integration and a simultaneous presentation at same valence as well as mixed valence. They hypothesized that the valence of emotions, positive or negative, is reflected by the valence of the images in an advertisement when presented at once. In addition, they expect that ambiguously balanced images, positive and negative, in the same advertisements causes a compensatory mechanism to balance the overall emotional response. So the study is based on a quantitative approach and made up of 3 experiments. The participants of the study consisted of students. So one of the experiments investigated the integration of images of the same valence. Another, the impact of oppositely balanced effective images in the same advertisement. In a final step, Chaudhry et al. Examined effect integration in a case where both valence and intensity of the images are mixed. To show all this, students were shown print advertisements for a camera, which varied in terms of valence and level of effect aroused, containing either single or multiple images for 30 seconds. Effect was assessed using a 10-point scale. Yes, results of the experiments confirmed that a peak mechanism is operating when effective images of the same valence are simultaneously presented. Furthermore, the study indicated that a compensatory mechanism is employed when images of opposite valence are presented together in the same advertisement. So overall, research from this study shows that in a print advertising context, while a peak mechanism might best describe the integration of simultaneously presented effective images of a common valence, a compensatory mechanism best describes the integration of these of different valence. Yes, I think that this is a really good journal article. Chaudhry and al. In their study provide a good theoretical account for effect integration under certain circumstances. This could act as a better predictor for the overall emotional response to print advertisements with multiple images. Given that the advertising and marketing literature have investigated the impact of visuals in advertising, it has not examined how multiple images of different valences might be integrated. It is important to do so, as understanding in which way emotional responses are integrated by the viewer of an advertisement is important with respect to advertising effectiveness. Yes, unfortunately there are some limitations to the findings of the study. Although Chaudhry et al. Investigated effect integration in a simultaneous presentation context, the exact sequence of the processing of the images by individuals was not examined, while it might be important to do so. Furthermore, the experiments in the study used images that were not linked by a narrative, whereas narrative associations between images are necessary to investigate presentation order effects. Another limitation of the study is that it does not consider the impact of context on effective processing of the print advertisement. Considering the impact of other entities on the page, for example editorial content or other images on the same page of the advertisement, would give a greater insight to which extent the integration of material within an advertisement differs to the one material outside an advertisement. In addition, the three experiments focused on valence and intensity. However, thinking of effect solely from a valence and arousal perspective is not sufficient. Other research has demonstrated the importance of examining specific emotions such as sadness, fear, happiness, excitement, etc. to reveal the nature of integration. Finally, emotional appeals do not necessarily evoke emotions in all people and therefore are subject to interpretation. Yes, actually I have a few more points to criticize. The number of individual differences such as mood and personality of the viewer might also impact the integration process and was not considered by Chaudhry et al. Furthermore, under circumstances, for instance when a product is new to the market, rational appeals are more effective than emotional appeals. Action communications, those that lead the consumer to actually buy a product, use rational appeals. An example is comparative advertising, that can be used as a means to differentiate a brand from a competitor. Another highly effective strategy that was not considered in Chaudhry et al.'s paper is the use of mixed appeals. Well, the first marketing implication of the article is that if a marketer decides to use a single image in an advertisement instead of multiple images of only positive or only negative images, this is sufficient as long as the image is visually strong and intense enough. Furthermore, if a marketer is using multiple images and is aiming for an overall positive effect response, there should be more positive images than negative images, and the other way around. Advertisers need to be aware that the overall effective response will be of a compensatory nature when both positive and negative images are used in an advertisement. Well, one application that I can think of is Victim Support, an independent charity for people affected by crime. Their new campaign, Find the Strength, can serve as an example for the use of a single image, intense and visually strong enough to elicit an emotional response. Creative agency MWO in the Victim Support campaign used pictures of crime victims with a very serious facial expression, and the idiom, what she or he is thinking is written on his or her face, is applied, written in smeared ink according to the theme of the campaign, helping the marks of crime to fade away. Herewith they are aiming at eliciting a strong negative emotional response in the viewer with the goal of leading them to act and donate. Yes, there's another application. An example for the use of multiple images of two valences, positive and negative, is HSBC's Your Point of View campaign. The campaign was a print and broadcast effort that celebrates people's differences by voicing common oppositions to various contentious topics. JWT, the fourth largest marketing communications network in the world, in 2008 introduced a thought-provoking ad campaign illustrating how there are multiple perspectives on any given subject by inducing positive as well as negative associations of images. For instance, one of HSBC's ads shows 3 different images that have all the word responsibility written onto them. A professional football player pictured shortly before taking a penalty, a recycling bin full of waste, and a fishbowl with a lonely goldfish in it. Each of the images will be associated differently by an individual. Therefore, this ad might lead to an overall positive or an overall negative response. It would be positive for people that like fish and recycling, or it would be negative for football fans who don't think of football players having any sort of responsibility, or those that perceive responsibility as a negative thing in general. Yes, definitely. I would recommend that academics wishing to investigate the impact of affective responses in advertising should try to incorporate the study of emotional as well as rational appeals in their research.